you so much. Really nice segue from the last session, ending on imagination and play, because our panel discussion today is going to be focusing on creativity in the age of AI. And a lot of talk about how we leverage AI for efficiency, how we do things faster and cheaper at scale. But actually we want to talk about that upstream value that AI can potentially bring in the creative process. So I've got Marc, Mostafa, and Michael here today, our triple M panel. And we're going to cover, just realized I haven't got the clicker, but maybe we can go to the first slide. We're going to address 4 key question topics. Thank you. So before we get stuck into talking about AI and the tools themselves, we want to talk about how we're approaching content today. Quick hands up in the audience. I'm not going to use Slido. We're going to go old school. So put your hands up if you've honestly had a conversation in the last month about creativity, not about data, not about operating models, an actual creative conversation. Okay. A few, maybe a fifth of people. So I'll put this provocative statement up. We all say content is king, but are we still serving our customers fast food? And Michael, I'm going to start with you. Are we really treating content as a strategic asset, or are we now fully commoditized it?
Well, let me probably be one point ahead. I'm talking about Michael. I'm not speaking on behalf of Boehringer, and I guess that's true for all of us. So maybe I start being even more provocative. I don't think that this question really nails it. I don't think, and I invite all of you to be of different opinion, I don't really think we have a lack of creativity. And why do I say that? I'm running a global services model in Boehringer. I'm delivering what we call custom content at scale. And when I compare the budgets that are here for the content deployment, the content measurement, the insight creation, to the creative agency budgets, I clearly see where the priorities are. Yeah? So they are still much higher, and they are growing faster than the operations budgets. So what I really believe is, and some of you might have been in Amsterdam also and heard me saying this before, I really believe we have a little bit of a lack of discipline in execution. And I can also make the argument around this, because we are talking a lot about, we need to develop into a data-driven decision-making organization that is becoming smarter and that is learning. And I totally agree to this, but this continuous cycle of learning, which is then enabling a continuous cycle of improvement, needs rigorous discipline in execution, because only when you know how you are executing, you can understand what the outcome is of what you have been doing and achieving, and only then you can feed it back to start the next learning cycle. If you don't close this loop in a very disciplined way, you are measuring something, drawing conclusions on something that is not related to this outcome, and you are completely breaking this cycle. Yeah? So, to wrap it up, I don't think we have a lack of creativity. I think we have a lack of discipline in execution.
Marc?
Yeah, happy to add. Look, I'm going to add one thing first. My opinion doesn't even represent GSK, may not even represent my own view. So just to bring in some provocation here, I actually think that we lack creativity across the board. And the reason being that we are in the pharmaceutical industry, and I can remember the days I was responsible for brand management a long time ago in 2002 for Seretide, CPD brands, and many of our customers or our competitors, including ourselves, we had this famous old man sitting on a bench in the park, enjoying his life with his grandchildren, and I think we are not really moved beyond that point in terms of creativity, I have to say. But I do think there is a lot of hope with AI. I think AI can push the boundaries of creativity, but more importantly, and I think we should take a more strategic view on developing content, which is what we have done in GSK, in my region where we are working. So we mapped out the content value chain, for example. It takes, on average, 21 to 28 days to produce an email across the board. That was like 2-3 years ago. And we set out a vision, and people were saying I was crazy. I said, I want it within 1 day. I'm not talking about the production only, I'm talking about the end-to-end process. And we implemented we first of all analyzed the content value chain. We mapped out where we are facing a lot of delays. We implemented a content authoring solution that was addressing all those gaps. And where we are right now, I think 10 to 15% of the content that we are creating, I'm not talking about e-detail aids, I'm talking about emails, is really created within 1 day and signed off. So we are moving, and I think that's what AI can help us with. It helps the bottom line, and hopefully one day it will also help the top line.
So it's interesting, you talked a lot about speed, but then we also know that we're spending more than ever with agencies and more than ever with Omnichannel. But for the first time, our CXQ data shows that customers are starting to engage less and less across digital, across face-to-face. So obviously there is still a disconnect there. The focus on speed, the focus on mass-producing content. Mostafa, what are your perspectives?
Well, I will first of all keep my disagreement with Michael for later on, not to shock the audience. But on this topic, the definition of using AI and adopting AI is different in my perspective. So what we're trying to do is to implement AI in our organizations, and then later on when we try to see if we're using it and we are making value of it, this is where the struggle happens. So whether it's production, creative, anything related to the content as part of the end-to-end journey, I think we have very, very long way to go in order to reach the harvest phase of that. If I reflect on the statement on the screen, I wish our industry has made an evolution towards the personalization of the engagement the same way the fast food industry has done. So you order a pizza on an app, you open the app, in 2 minutes you have your previous order, you have predictive suggestions of what you need, you have some optimizations there, and you have all your information are there, and in 1 minute you reach from the idea of the order until the decision. When I cross-compare this to pharma, we are not there yet at all, and we are just in the phase of applying AI to be available in our companies, but using it very far. And again, disclaimer, this is my own views, this is not my company's views.
Because I'm going to get stuck straight into the AI topic. I have the next question on the slide. Quick hands up, who believes AI will make pharma more creative next year? Ooh, even less people. Okay, two out of, 2.5 on the fence. So a bit of a divisive statement. AI will only create herd creativity. It can only remix what we're already putting into a very regulated, closed environment, and AI will not be able to generate anything original. Marc, agree, disagree?
Yeah, so kind of agree, and the reason is it depends on what is your reference. And there has been studies with AI where they have asked students to write an essay helped with AI, and it turned out that most of those essays were indeed more creative. However, in the bigger scheme of things, there was also a lot of similar ideas that came from the different kind of AI models. So, by definition, AI is combining and exploring based on what's there, but it's not creating something that's not there. So that, in the big scheme of things, is not going to help. But, as I started saying in my first answer, given my view that the creativity in the pharmaceutical industry is not very high, I think AI can help the individual to become more creative. So in the short term, individuals will become more creative.
And I would like to build on this, if I may. For me, the key question here, because there's an underlying tonality that this might be something negative, I would challenge this honestly, because the AI is able to mingle and mix what is existing in new and fresh ways that it feels sufficiently creative and innovative, I would say. And it comes back to the question, why are we doing this in the end? In the end, this is all about getting the right treatment to the right patients at the right time. This is what we are here for. And if this level of creativity is just good enough, it's just good enough. Yeah, that's my perspective here. We are not Hollywood. Yeah, we don't need to win the next award in Cannes. We are here to serve the patients. And I'm pretty sure this kind of freshness in the creative process that helps you with a lot of alternative scenarios, which then help you with customization, which then helps you with better engagement, which then helps you to get the right treatment to the right patient faster. That's all what we want.
Provided that this is happening in a context of an area where we have a legacy, we know what we do, we have reached to a certain stage where we're happy with and we can carry on with that. Then move to another scenario where you are jumping into an untapped area that you have very minimal information and you need something to unlock the limitations that are there. You need a catalyst, you need an amplifier to your creative ideas that are coming a bit primitive at that stage. In that context, I do believe that AI will definitely play a critical role, and I strongly agree that it will have lots of original things to add on. It depends on what type of AI and how we're doing it and what type of applications that are there.
So on that point, so you're saying that really it's we don't have to be super creative. We have to be getting the right message to the right customer. But that original insight still has to be there. And do you see that AI can play that role? Or what's the role of the human, whether it's the marketeer or the creative agency that we work with? Where's that balance?
Basic AI, there is now everyday AI for everyone, like ChatGPT, right? We sometimes use it for some emails, and then we apply our touch to amplify the creativity and to add on this kind of empathy element. So I think it will be exactly the same. So AI will help you to reach to a level where you don't have to consume lots of efforts to reach to that standard. Not everyone has to be super fluent in every language when they are directing a message to a certain, let's say, country, if they are a global team. Not everyone is very familiar with all the topics around, let's say, marketing, and they would like to create something that will address the fundamentals of marketing there. AI will be the amplifier, human will be the empathy player in order to merge both. But it definitely will play, and it is currently playing a critical role in all the other industries, and we just need to leapfrog on those industries. If we just think that this movie started with pharma, and we have to just make the decisions, I think that will be a big mistake. I don't know. Michael,
I would like to build on this. In this same context, we need to also discuss on what is the future role of the marketeer, and I firmly believe that the future role of the marketeer will also depend where in this content value chain they are sitting. Yeah? The role of the future corporate marketeer must be different than the marketeer in the region and in the markets. And I'm coming back to my rigorous discipline and execution. To really close the learning loop from markets to regions to corporate, we will have the strategy and the ideation and probably the biggest part of the creativity when it comes to how we strategize around our clinical evidence, which is the core of what we do, right? This will mostly sit in corporate, but to enable corporate to really learn, we need to make sure that the strategy, the assets, the messages arrive in the markets intact. So asset integrity, message integrity, strategy implementation integrity, that all needs to play together so that we can close the learning cycle. Otherwise, it always breaks somewhere if you don't have that end-to-end discipline and perspective.
Yeah, the thing I want to add, and I agree on the point of marketing, and for me that is even a bit more fundamental. One of the things we've been doing in the last 3 years, we categorized our portfolio. We have a gen med vaccines type of portfolio. One of the 3 categories we're having is a category called digital only, where we don't have any sales force, right? So, and I'm working in emerging markets, which is including India, Mexico, where you still have a lot of sales force. The biggest challenge with that is that I think many companies are sales force driven. And they are depending on all the insights coming from customers based on the customers that are getting them in. If you don't have a sales force, you lack your insights, and then you lack a tailored and a targeted approach. So the biggest change is to make sure that your IT infrastructure is collecting all the insights, is all integrated in one big data lake, that you can have a vision of your customer which is truly 360. And that was a fundamental shift. So for me, apart from having marketers, it's also about the question, are we a marketing-driven company or a Salesforce-driven company?
So this leads me on to the next big question very nicely in terms of how we reorganize our operating models. If we click to the next question, so if we think about now that we have technology, does that enable us to in-source or internalize creative services and start to scale across markets? So third hands-up question, who in the room expects more creative work to be brought in-house next year? Okay, quite a few more hands. Huh?
Can anyone say why you think that it will be coming in-house?
Why in-house or why not coming in-house?
Is it power? Is it enablement?
So, I mean, for us, it's because we start having new tools that can enable the creative.
So it's enablement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Internally rather than in the
Clear. Okay.
We heard you.
Do you want to, what are your perspectives, Mostafa?
Well, when the production started to be somehow outsourced from outside, there was an element of effectiveness, but also there was an element of efficiency. So the effectiveness is, let's centralize, elevate the level to be beyond the minimal standard of production, and at the same time, we use the agencies with their minds and ideas in order to make our life better. And at the same time, we dump all the heavy lifting topics from the shoulders of the marketeers to be done externally when it comes to production. And the efficiency element is, it saves costs. And we all know this story that when you bring a big case like this, a transformational case of internalizing or externalizing content, you have to show that there is effectiveness and efficiency. Now, when we talk about creative parts, it comes later because the organizations, and I have to say this, we're looking at the piece where they can get the most savings from, which is the production piece. Now, the creative piece is very debatable because there is a fear locally inside the company that if you take from me the production outside, then you take the creative part to be outside, then what I will be doing internally in the company. So the other way around is the enablement. Give me support, keep some budget with me, and at the same time, I will make sure that I move with the standard in the industry by having the outside-in perspective. So I believe it will be mostly in the hands of the organizations internally, provided that they are super enabled and they are aware of the tools and the supports that they can get from external. I don't know what my colleagues think.
I would like to raise a question as a response to what Yassan just said. Yes, this enablement is going to happen for sure. The tools are there, the technology is there. It will be pretty easy and straightforward. But how about governance? Because this all leads us into a world of self-service, right? But you cannot completely leave it to the discretion of each and every marketer out there to suddenly self-service his model, his approach, how he engaged with the doctors. And it brings me back to the strategic integrity of how we are operating. So I'm not sure, while this enablement is going to happen, how do we balance this with most of us working probably in a global pharma where we want to have global brands that build global trust, that need to have a level of recognition. If we all go now on self-service, 2 years down the line, we will probably end up in Wild West. And McDonald's in Bangladesh will look different than in India, in Europe, or in the US. Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're...
No, I agree. So this discussion on how does AI or decentralization of services impact the global to local model has been on the table as well in my company. If I just go back a long time, I was part of a European brand team, and we had red, amber, green guidelines. We had KPIs, 70% should be global, 30% should be local. That model is not there anymore. I think it's that. Does it mean there is no role for global teams? I think there is, but that role has changed. I think the role of global teams and global strategic agencies should be indeed being strategic, having like a set of brand imagery. I think a brand like Shingrix is not different in Brazil versus Indonesia. So I think that consistency should be there. But I don't think any longer we need to mandate to our local operating companies that they should take 70% of the content, which they, first of all, don't believe in any way. And recently I was actually asking this question to one of my countries, because, and this is a mindset change that I've seen in my company as well. Some people in global, and again, I'm put it a little bit provocative, they think, I'm sitting in global, I've done my market research, this is what you guys need. Why are you actually not using my content, or why are you creating any different type of content? They don't understand it genuinely. And then I asked these local operating company guys, how much of your global content are you actually adjusting, and how much are you creating locally? And the answer was 60% of the content was created locally. And the reason is very simple. If you believe in customer centricity, then we have to admit they have a lot of channels, they have a lot of different needs, and then you need to allow them a little bit of space and empowerment to make their own decisions. So yes, it's changing, but I think there will be always a role for global teams and global strategic agencies. Who's going to pay the price? I think the agency that sits around the corner that was doing the simple production.
Do you think, so I completely agree with you, more centralization, the shifting the roles and the skill sets, but are we ready for that? Because another perspective is, even if we internalize creative, we have different teams owning the data, owning the content, owning the technology. Are we ready to have an integrated, centralized ecosystem? Mustafa?
Short answer, creative work is a specialty, okay? And if we have a super creative team that we currently put in the organization to support the marketing team, or even the marketing team will have the muscle of being creative, he will never be as is to compare with a creative director of an external agency. If you don't have a path of development and evolution and retention for that person in the company, then at a point of time you will get stuck on that level. So I think it has to be balanced. We should not lock totally the external support, but we should also equip the team locally to elevate themselves, and maybe we differentiate. Global campaigns are different from local. Adaptation can have some creative element as well that needs to be there. So it should be balanced.
So actually, because we've got a couple of minutes left, I'm going to ask that as a direct question. Do you think AI will ever be more creative than your best ever creative department in your agency? Yes or no?
AI,
Michael's shaking his head already.
Well, AI will definitely, if it's bundled and if it's amplifying a work of any human being, it will be much better than any human alone.
Do you agree?
And to the point, this super creative agent out there will be empowered by AI, so it will take it yet to the next level.
So you are pro AI bundled with the human?
Marc?
I think it depends. I mean, some people are just not creative, right? And they will never be.
And they will never. AI cannot make
And
you
then
creative.
I think AI is a blessing. And I think there are also people that have a great mind and a great level of critical thinking, which to me is one of the key skills that humans have, and I'm not sure whether AI that will ever have. So answering, if that's your measure, then I think it will not.
Yeah. But maybe a small note to the audience. This language and this topic might be very digestible by the people in this room. But when we go back and when we speak to the commercial medical organization, the vast majority of the organization, this does not resonate and it does not convince. As long as the seat of the business excellence person is not having the same value and the same, let's say, voice in any leadership team, this will always be like a dilemma that they will consider it as some fancy stuff, some nice to have, but they will not believe until this mindset, skill set, and tool set established in the mind of the vast majority of the commercial organization. So we need to bring that in the language of the business, in the language of the organization, factoring the DNA of the organization, and then we will see the change happening. But if we just kept it in the language of the business excellence, it will seem nice, but it will never come to reality.
So if I do sort of a final round with each of you, so if creative and strategic content is sort of getting centralized, getting scales, what's the one thing we must invest in for future success? Marc?
Automating your customer insights process, making sure that you have all the customer insights at your doctor level on an ongoing basis.
Michael?
A basic understanding for the relevance of what I refer to as the machine room of the business, because to Mostafa's point, we collectively don't have the same seat around this table where these decisions are being made.
And for me, a new set of capabilities across all the organization that have what we see in the future envisioned model as a standard in the organization. Otherwise, we are bringing old cars and we are asking them to go to the Ferrari race, so it will never work.
Great. I don't think we have any time for questions, but any final thoughts you guys want to add?
Time is up.
I know, exclamation mark.
Maybe we take from the audience, if any.
It will be taken from your lunchtime.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So to be honest, I think what disturbs me is that what we're talking about is designing for tomorrow, but what I'm interested in is designing for the day after tomorrow, which I think, I mean, looking at tools like Notebook, LLM, I think our role as marketeers will be only designing the strategic content, and that's it. Everything that the customer will consume will be spit up by an AI model, whether it's a video or it's an image or it's a banner or it's a podcast that they want to listen to. So what do you think about this? What do you think about changing our role into less content creator and more of SMPC creators, so actual mechanism of action or medical information that the AI will be able to orchestrate?
Short answer from my side. The book of work of the marketeer of the future, if it's 100 pages, it has 5 on content creation, and the rest for me are totally different things. So the marketeer of the future will be doing a lot, and he will be obsessed with the customer, not the product, not just the number of campaigns. It will be a totally different story.
So I tend to agree with you, provided that, so my job is to develop an end-to-end automated marketing process. So that goes in the direction that you want to go. Next year, we're going to have agentic AI, so that process will get there. But my biggest concern is that we don't have the insights on an ongoing automated basis. So I'll give you a very simple example, quick. Booking.com, my favorite company, 20 years ago, they came with questionnaires. I answered the questionnaires, everything went into the system. Now I'm going on the app, find my hotel in Paris. The day after, I'm getting an email, this hotel in Paris is not going away. How do they do that? Because they know everything about me. We are not there yet as a pharmaceutical company. If you want to achieve that vision that you have, I think you need to invest in that particular part.
And on that note, I think the time is up. So thank you so much to our fantastic Triple M panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.